Welcome back to another episode of Life in the Stands podcast. We have Jake and Zach on the podcast today. We're excited to do another quick takes episode. We had a lot of fun doing this last time around, so we're going to go through a couple of NFL and NBA quick takes again. And then, of course, we talk about the NFL playoffs. So we're also going to mention all of those things. Bender's already puffing out his chest, so we're going to have to talk about Michigan winning the college football championship as well, and the JJ McCarthy take because he performed very well on long third downs in that game. But yeah, we'll let Bender start off the podcast just by letting him, gloat a little bit in the glory of Michigan for a little bit. We will cut him off if we need to, but then we'll also let him get into his first take. So Bender, go ahead and take us away.
Yeah, so I'll keep it short and sweet. I got to give credit where credit's due. I will say you are dead on about a lot of things in regards to JJ McCarthy and the statistic you pulled out last episode. I believe you said what 92% in third and seven and longer. Um, and yeah, he really capitalized in the championship game. Um, I don't really have much to say other than Washington fails to finish the job whenever they make the playoffs. I'm glad that we were able to finish our story in the whole like Michigan versus everybody scenario all season. I hope we can retain Harbaugh. The likelihood of that is not sounding too good right about now. But on the bright side, we sent Nick Saban into retirement, so I'm happy about it. But yeah, let's get the quick takes episode going here, shall we? And I'm gonna change it up and go straight to the NBA. My first take is that the Oklahoma City Thunder will make the Western Conference Finals. Now I did gloat about SGA being like an up and coming MVP candidate earlier in that other episode. But Chet is starting to show up and is my rookie of the year so far. I did choose Scoot at the beginning of the year. Injuries kind of hindered him, and I'm glad to see he's showing flashes now. But that's besides the point. You got SGA, you got Chet, you got J Dub, you got a bunch of guys on that roster that are a little sneaky. And I think it's a big deal going into playoffs that you have superstar talent and that you play as a team. And they're showing that they can play as a team. And you have Chet and SGA as backup superstars. And let's be real, it's a new era in the NBA. If you look at the seeding right now, you got Warriors, Suns, and Lakers at no particular order, 9, 10, and 12 seeds right now. That means they are play-in caliber teams, and the West is wide open.
Yeah, I agree the West is wide open. I still think, there's teams that are older than the Thunder, which is why, I could see them making a playoff push in the next couple of years. It might be a little bit too early on this pick, but I mean, I see where you're coming from a little bit. But I remember a statistic we looked at a little bit ago where we looked at like the average age of championship teams, and it was like pushing 30. And I
Yeah,
think the Thunder are still, you know, early 20s. Probably average
right.
age on that team is 23 or 24, if I had to
Yeah, they're
guess.
the youngest team in the league, and it's about 23 is their average age.
Right, right. So for me, I mean, I think they just might be a little bit ahead, but either way, they are an exciting and up and coming team.
Yeah, and I'll agree with everything you just said about the experience piece of things, but that's also why I think they're one player with all those picks that they have stored up, one player away from being a championship team.
That is a great point to make. All those picks are there. Let's keep it in the NBA. There was big news today about Kawhi Leonard is signing a big extension. So congrats to the fun guy. So sign a big extension. I'm actually gonna go out on a limb and say Kawhi Leonard never wins another championship.
Hmm.
I don't think
Okay.
that the Clippers, although they're on a big hot streak right now, I don't think they have what it takes to win it all. I think inevitably, even though it sucks, someone on that team is going to get injured. Someone out of the big three, the core of that team is going to get injured. It's not going to make it the whole way through the playoffs. And I just don't think Kawhi ever wins another ring now that he's signed on to that deal. I could see him being in the last year or two of that deal and him looking for a trade from the Clippers and then teams trying to figure out how to match that. And I could see him just not being there. But yeah, I'm gonna go to them and say that he never wins another ring. Um, just because I don't think that Clippers team this year has a chance. And beyond this year, I don't know if Kawhi has another chance because after this year, it seems like that whole Clippers roster is not going to be the same as well. And who knows
Yes,
where he ends up.
this is actually a good segue. I actually have a quick take about the LA Clippers. I believe that they're going to stay healthy and win the chip this year. The way they've been playing ever since Russ moved himself to the bench. Like I know they had that losing streak right when James Harden came in. I think it was a lot of trying to figure out where pieces meshed. I do think the Clippers are one of the deepest teams in the league as well. Like we don't talk about Terrence Mann, we don't talk about Norman Powell, we don't talk about Zubac, like we don't talk about all those guys. Um, and like you just have the depth, and you need depth, you need experience going into the NBA playoffs, especially to win a championship. Um, so I think this is their year. I think they're managing and load managing very well right now. And I think that's why guys have been staying healthy. There was a point in time where they were on a win streak not too long ago, like a week or two ago. Kawhi was averaging about like 26, 27. PG's averaging a little over 20. And James Harden was averaging what, like 16 and like 10-ish. And that's not to say like we're completely ignoring Russell Westbrook and the whole thing. He seems like a genius right now for moving himself to the bench. And I believe he was averaging probably like 11, 5, and 6 in that little span. And having that off the bench is just amazing. So I have them winning it all this year. And that will not be a shock to anybody once you see the rest of the season play out.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that take. Again, like in theory, this all works together really well, but we just talked about the West being wide open. I think there's still a lot of talent there. You have to look at the Nuggets still. You have to look at the Kings. You have to look at a lot of other talent that exists at the top of the West, including the Thunder. So, I think when I look at this team, there's a lot of deep teams in the West, and I trust a lot of other teams to stay healthier, and a lot of other teams have more continuity too. So if you look at the Clippers, how often does it really happen where a team trades for a superstar in the middle of the season where it really disrupts the entire makeup of the team and then they go on to win a championship that year? Like that's hard to come by. So when it really comes down to it in the playoffs, in those moments, depth might be crucial, yeah, but also the ability to really know where your teammates are going to be and have that continuity in the system and with your teammates and stuff. So I could see it both ways. If they stay healthy, they got as much talent as anyone. I'll give you that, and they do have as much depth. But I don't think they'll stay as healthy, and I think other teams, know each other better.
Yeah, I'm actually going to throw a little jab in here real quick. So we did a lot of way too early predictions not too long ago. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and say one thing. The team that I think they're going to beat in the finals. So now we're going to talk about Eastern Conference. The team they're going to beat is the Miami Heat.
So the Heat make it all the way to the finals again.
Yep, fall short. Yep. I think the East is wide open as well.
Wow, the Heat though, that is interesting.
Conversation.
That is interesting. All right, well let's hop over here. I'm going to move on to my second quick take. I'm going to go over to the NFL, and my first NFL quick take. I'm going to say that Belichick actually ends up staying in New England. I
Hmm,
think Belichick stays in New England because if he was going to be out, I think it would have happened by now.
I
I
don't
think if
think
you look
so.
at I think if he would out, he'd be out. If he was going to be out, he'd be out by now. And even if he's out as like one of the roles, I think he stays as the other one. You just saw what the Seahawks did to Pete Carroll. It's like they want him around still, they want him as part of the organization, but you're just going to be done being the head coach.
Yeah.
So that means you're a players guy and everyone knows everybody wants you to be around still, but like we need fresh ideas. We kind of need you to sit down.
Yeah. That's
I'm not
fair.
saying they're going to do that to Bill Belichick, but like I could see them, because they did a lot of things with Tom Brady. I don't think people are giving enough credit to the fact that they kind of purposely put themselves in this situation, knowing what they were doing with the cap and all the contracts in the years they knew they could win Super Bowls. So they are really cap hindered and all those kinds of things. So I think Bill Belichick as the GM is actually really, really good. I could see them maintaining him as the GM, firing him as the coach, bringing in a new
Yeah.
head coach, and Belichick stays as the GM, also because of the relationship he has with Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
So I think Belichick actually ends up staying in New England. I can't imagine Robert Kraft also wanting to bring in someone entirely new. He's an old fart as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree with that. I think Belichick will just go straight up to being a GM and GM only, and I think that'll benefit him and allow him to focus on one specific thing. I think it's really hard um, to kind of like juggle all those responsibilities in an organization. And I'll leave it with I think Vrabel will be the next head coach of the Patriots.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
Former player, got inducted into the Hall of Fame this year at New England when they played him. I think it makes
Mm,
perfect sense.
Bender, that does make a lot of sense. That makes me happy.
Yep.
If you're a football
Uh,
fan, what Bender just said should just make you happy. Mike Vrabel going to coach the Patriots with Bill Belichick as the full-time GM. As a Steelers fan, I absolutely hate your guts. I really hate your guts right now. But as a football fan, I love it. You can go
yeah.
to the next take.
For sure.
What do you
I'll
share?
let you stir on that one a little bit, but keep it within the Tennessee Titans as well, and the NFL. I actually have Derrick Henry playing for the Dallas Cowboys next year. Um, he mentioned in his press conference after last week's game that he was headed home to Dallas. Now, you can take that out of context however you want to, and I am certainly going to take it out of context. He is headed to Dallas. He was in trade rumors for either Dallas or Philly, knowing his hometown is Dallas, Texas, and that's where he's living. I think that makes perfect sense. Stay home and not have to worry about income tax and all the good loving stuff that comes with it. But I also think that's the perfect fit for the Cowboys. I think we've missed Zeke a lot this year. We need that kind of power back. I'm not saying we want him to take 20 touches a game. I think we'll keep Tony Pollard on a franchise tag, regardless of what move we make this offseason. But I think a good 1-2 punch would make sense with Derrick Henry involved.
Yeah, I love this. I feel like I, even at the beginning of the season, kind of mentioned that I thought Zeke would be missed and that Pollard was so good because he was the second back. Um,
Yes.
I think I kind of called that early, but I think it's exactly why Derrick Henry is a perfect fit. I totally agree. My one question for you is, do you think they're going to franchise tag Pollard either way? You don't think they'll give him a contract?
No. I just don't think Jerry Jones wants to give up the money like that.
He
Because you
did it
need to
with Zeke and
eventually,
he's like, nah.
nah, but you need to eventually pay CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons and all these other guys. Like we already paid Diggs, that makes sense. But you need to think about your defense. You want to keep that intact. Dak obviously got his money. Um, so there's only so much money to go around, especially if you're
True.
Jerry Jones, who's already cheap to begin with.
Very true. Very true. Those are all good points. Okay, on to the next thing. I think I'm going to jump back over into the NBA. I'm going to say John Morant comes back next year and wins MVP. I think coming back and being here for 10 games and then having an injury like that where he has to sit out the rest of the season just feels like he's going to come back and really, really have something to prove, really have a chip on his shoulder after missing all that time because the NBA is going to forget about John Morant for a little bit. Everyone's still thinking about it a little bit right now because it's so close, but we have a lot of season left to play, the whole postseason, all the finals and all those series. By the time next season rolls around, everyone's going to be forgetting about John Morant a little bit. I think he's going to come out with really, really something to prove. And I think he ends up winning his first MVP award. Grizzlies make the playoffs, probably as like a top four seed in the West. Um, yeah, I think he comes back with a vengeance.
Yeah, so I think we should have a future conversation on future MVPs at some point. Um, Although I think it'd be good for basketball just to have Ja back in general and healthy. You saw the difference he made when he did come back. Um, I just think there's too many guys ahead of him that are going to be around for a long time. I feel like the last 3, 4 years, the top three has always been Giannis, Embiid, and Joker. So like trying to squeeze into the top three right now is tough. Like you're seeing SGA starting to poke some buttons a little bit in that list. So like MVP would be cool, but I don't think that's realistic for where the league is right now. And I think another name to get in there would be Anthony Edwards in the next 2 years. So I think that'd be something to talk about eventually.
It surprises me that you didn't say Tyrese Halliburton over Anthony Edwards in that conversation, you homer. But at the same time, I do hear what you're saying. I
Hmm.
just think, what if Jock comes back out and averages 33, 11, and 8 on a 60-win Grizzlies team?
Yeah, we'll have to see it though.
Yeah, we'll have to see it.
We got to see him crack the double-digit assist mark at some
Yeah,
point.
we do.
Yeah. But I'm gonna keep it in the NBA. And yes, I will go straight back to the Indiana Pacers. Um, of course. Um, like like SGA, I've also talked about Tyrese Halliburton in a previous episode. I believe it was our quick takes episode originally. I do have the Indiana Pacers if healthy because Tyrese is out probably for the next 4 to 6 weeks. That's typically how long a hamstring injury will last, hamstring strain of his caliber. Could be a little bit longer. You just need to figure out how rehab's going, all that kind of good stuff. But the way they've been playing, how deep their roster is as well. Now you talked about experience. They don't have a lot of experience on that team outside of maybe like TJ McConnell. Um, so yeah, I saw the little smirk.
All
Um,
the experience you need.
yeah, we love our guy TJ, but um, I think that experience in the play-in tournament will do them well, even though it wasn't like a series-based tournament. Um, I'd like to see them in a playoff series. I think that'd be really cool to see how they adjust to that kind of environment. But I think it won't be anything crazy. They've proven that they can beat the Bucks now. I believe they've beaten them like 4 out of 5 times, including the play-in tournament now, um, and beat the Celtics, the Sixers. They have a chance to make some noise and push somebody in a series to get to the conference finals or even maybe the NBA finals. That might be pushing it a little bit. Um, but yeah, I have them making a deep run.
Yeah, this I can see, and it's because the Pacers, I think, are a little bit more mature than the Thunder are. I think the Patriots have, yeah, I mean, I think the Pacers are just a little bit more mature overall. And I think Tyrese Halliburton matches the level of SGA at this point. Not necessarily in scoring, but in the way he impacts the game. Because if you can go out there and drop 20 assists,
Yes.
I mean, he's doing it 15, he's doing 15 consistently. So, I mean, the way he impacts the game is on par with, someone like SGA. And basketball, much more than football, in the NBA, much more than the NFL, a single player impacts the game so much more,
Yeah.
right? So like star power matches star power. And when the Pacers step out on the floor, there's not a single team in the NBA that they are super outmatched with anymore in terms of their top guy, that top level, number one star level guy. Tyrese Halliburton is a top 10 player, top 15 player. I'm going out there
Yeah.
making statements again, but I'm gonna let you
Yeah.
finish your quick take. But I agree. I see this. I see this a
If
lot
you
more than the Thunder right now.
if you think about it, Tyrese Halliburton, like I know he got hurt, but he's probably in the top 5 for MVP candidates right now. Um, that's just my opinion. I think it's Embiid, Joker, Giannis, SGA, and Halliburton in that top 5, no particular order. I just think he's on that list right now. But
Yeah. All right. So moving on from that, I'm going to jump back over into the NFL. I'm going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. Now, I think Baker Mayfield brings the Buccaneers all the way to the NFC Championship game.
a Steelers fan talking about Baker Mayfield? I never
Yeah.
thought I'd see the time of day. Wow,
Yeah. Baker Mayfield. See, I was always a fan of Baker. He should have never been picked number one overall by the Browns.
this is fair. You could technically make a case the Browns ruined him.
You could make a case that the Browns ruin everyone. Regardless, they're 11-5 this year. Hats off to Coach Stefanski. He's done a great job. They're going to lose in the first round. But anyway, yeah, I really think the Bucks steamroll the Eagles. I think the Eagles, out of any team in the entire playoffs, have the least confidence.
Yes,
And they're going to roll into Tampa Bay. And I think no matter what that game looks like in the fourth quarter, Tampa Bay is going to be more confident.
I agree. I
And that's all that
I
matters
think
in a playoff game. So I think they beat Tampa Bay, and then depending on what happens in the NFC, um, you know, they could host a playoff game. They'll probably be on the road uh, in the second round, but I think they could go in to San Francisco.
if the Lions win and the Bucks win, the Bucks would run into the Niners, and then the Lions would get the Cowboys in Dallas.
Right. And see, so I'm predicting that the Bucks could go into San Francisco and beat the Niners. And I'm going to back this take up when we do another podcast next week with Beans, the resident Niners fan.
Hmm.
And he's going to talk about this game potentially if the Bucks are in that game. And I'm going to back it up, and I'm going to say the Bucks beat the Niners.
Go ahead and stir that pot with him as much as you want to. I'm just
Uh-huh.
gonna sit back. I'm gonna sit back right like this and be like, yeah, we
Uh-huh.
won't see the Niners or anybody until the championship game.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason that I'll take that is because I think Baker Mayfield with Mike Evans. I don't think anyone can guard Mike Evans on San Francisco's defense.
Yeah, and Funka's out, so backup safety. Yeah, I'll agree with that one. Um, I'm excited for next week now, just because I think you're gonna get Beans a little bit amped up with that comment. Um, but
Obviously.
we'll see. We'll see. Um, let's go back to the NFL. I actually have the Chiefs making the Super Bowl. Talk about lack of confidence right now. With the Eagles, I think the Chiefs don't have the most confidence at the moment. Um, I think they'll get their feet wet again in the first round here. I think that'll be all the confidence they need. All it takes is one good run in the NFL playoffs. Just ask Eli Manning. Um,
Or
so
two.
yeah, so I think they'll make it to the Super Bowl. But here's the kicker. I actually have the Niners making the Super Bowl and beating the Chiefs in a rematch from a couple years ago when Jimmy G was the quarterback.
And Purdy gets it done.
Yep.
That'd be a
So,
pretty good story. I don't know if I agree with it though. I think the Chiefs, yeah, do have a big lack of confidence, and I don't know if they have the running game to stack up in the playoffs. Most of the time, they've actually had a really balanced offense. They've played explosive plays, but they've had a nice balance of run game. This year, they don't really have either. They're pretty mediocre in explosive plays, and they don't have a very solid run game. So I don't think their offense actually stacks up on the playoffs. I think Mahomes isn't going to be able to do the kinds of things that we're used to seeing him do with the receiving core he has. Shout out to Kadarius Toney. So I don't know. I don't think that the Chiefs make it all the way to the Super Bowl this year.
yeah, I can't disagree with you. I just think having Super Bowl experience and winning two of them already um, just makes a big difference, especially with how open the AFC is as well. I think the only two teams that you need to be worried about is maybe the Ravens and the Bills, but there's also another team I'll talk about here in a second.
Yeah, I know the Steelers are very dangerous. They're very dangerous, but we'll jump back
Gross.
over. What did you say? Did you say that they're gonna win it all?
Gross, dude. Not with you got TJ Watt out. You ain't doing nothing with
So
TJ Watt
riddle me this. What happens if we win in Buffalo this weekend?
out. You lose the next round.
Good. Okay, on to the next take. I think Joel Embiid wins his third straight scoring title this year. But at the same time, I think the Sixers still get bounced in the second round.
Yeah, our luck will run into the Celtics. But yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
And it happens every year. Every year we happen to play the Celtics in the second round, which is why we get bounced in the second round. The Celtics are the Heat. I think if we would have played the Bucks or the Pacers in the second round, then the Sixers make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But if you play the Heat or the Celtics in that round, no way.
it's terrible. Yeah. Honestly, I'd rather run into the Miami Heat second round in the conference, like Eastern Conference Finals.
It will,
At that point, they have so much momentum. You know what the Miami Heat have been doing with momentum in the playoffs?
yeah, I
They
understand
ride
that,
that.
but can't
They
beat them in the second
ride
round
that.
either. I'd rather just have someone else beat them in the second round. Like, why can't Boston and Miami play each other in the second round?
I would love that. I think that's a great matchup.
When
But
can that happen in the second round?
I
I would
don't
like
know.
to, I think the Sixers should play the Bucks or the Pacers in the second round and then see what happens. But anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, I still think Joel wins his third straight scoring title though. He's been on an absolute tear.
for sure. Yeah, I can't disagree with a lot of that. I think it's more of every year we wait to see what the matchups are and what the seeding is. And we're like, well, looks like we're matched up with the Celtics again. Let's see what happens. Let's lose in a game seven. Let's choke the series. I don't know. It's just been terrible the last couple of years.
Yeah, go to your
But
next take. I'm getting annoyed.
yeah, I'm getting depressed, not annoyed. But no, so I mentioned I was going to talk about another AFC team. This is my final NFL take, and I think it's something that needs to be talked about more. And I know CJ Stroud's been hurt a couple of games this year, but I actually have the Houston Texans making the conference championship game. Now, if they run into the Chiefs, I obviously have the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. I think the Chiefs can beat the Texans. I think it would be a shootout. I think it'd be a great matchup between CJ Stroud and Patrick Mahomes.
Ooh,
Hey, man,
ooh,
I can't cheer for an Ohio State guy too much. But
fair.
no, I think I think CJ Stroud will actually make a big impact and kind of show that he's here to stick around and be what we thought Trevor Lawrence would be and what we thought Joe Burrow would turn into. Now, Joe Burrow made a Super Bowl appearance already, so I can't really say much about that. But I think he's eventually going to have his name floated around the Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurtses of the world, um, and be a top five quarterback probably next year already. He was an MVP candidate before he got hurt.
I mean, he's already on that level. Yeah, I mean, the dude is insane. The plays that he was making in that Week 18 game are ridiculous. I think the Texans really, with D'Amico Ryans there, they're in great shape. They are ready to build for the future. I think that they could actually beat the Chiefs. There's not a team in the AFC playoffs that I can't beat, that I think can't beat another team.
Yes,
So, including the Chiefs, including the Ravens, including the Steelers, obviously. Maybe no one can beat the Steelers. We'll have to find it out yet. But either way, um, yeah, I think the Texans are as good as anyone, and CJ Stroud makes them as good as anyone.
for sure.
All right. Well, I have one more take here about some NFL head coaching vacancies, since we're also getting into that part of the offseason as playoffs are starting. I think the best head coaching vacancies are the Commanders and the Chargers. I think those two are easily the best head coaching vacancies. And I think that because Chargers, obviously, you got Herbert, you got pieces to build there. You're in a little bit of salary cap hell, but at least you have some youth still and some decent contracts. You're gonna have to move off of some more difficult contracts, but there are pieces in LA. And then in Washington, quarterback is a little bit more uneasy. Um, I think Sam Howell could be the answer there, but you're probably not for sure absolutely yet. Wide receiver pieces are there for sure. Defense is good there. So I think that's a really good opportunity in Washington as well. I think those are the two best head coaching vacancies. Everywhere else, good luck. Like the Panthers, oh my goodness.
Yeah, have fun. Um, I have a question for you. I don't have anything against what you just said. Um, I think those are probably the two best destinations for anybody looking to get a head coaching job. Who would you hire for the Chargers and the Commanders if you had the choice? Assuming everybody's available, assuming nobody's for sure done, like the Bill Belichick's of the world and Pete Carroll's, like who would you hire for those two positions? Wheels are turning.
Think I'd go Jeff Saturday. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Um, I would love to see Bill Belichick
With,
go to LA with Justin Herbert.
I think that'd be a good one.
I think that'd be really cool. And then for Washington, I think Dan Quinn is someone whose name has been floated around a lot already. He could be a good fit in Washington, I think.
That's fair. Please don't go there, but that's fair. What do you think about Bieniemy stepping up into the head coaching job? I think that's a very reasonable thing as well.
I think it's very reasonable too. Hopefully that's what happens, honestly. Hopefully
Yeah,
that is
for
what
sure.
happens. But
For sure. Let's get into our game picks here. We have a lot to talk about in future episodes. Holy.
we do. We do. All right. So game picks here. We're going to start in the NFC, actually. We're going to go Rams and Lions, the Sunday
Uh,
night game on NBC.
Tricky one, but I got the Lions. I'm not going to overthink it.
I have the Lions in this one too, although, yeah, there's so many storylines with Matt Stafford going back into Detroit. It would be heartbreaking for Matt Stafford to beat the Lions in their first home playoff game in like 4 million decades. It would be heartbreaking for the city of Detroit, but I'm kind of here for it too. If the Rams win this game, they're winning it all. The next game, Eagles and Bucks. You already know my pick. So
Yeah, I got the Eagles. Um, I just think they'll get something together, whether they win by 1 or 30. Like they're gonna win.
oh, it's always a shame when you mess up a pick. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's jump over to the AFC. We're gonna go Browns and Texans. We already know Bender's pick.
Yes, sir. Texans.
Yeah, Bender's taking CJ Stroud and the Texans. I'm also gonna take the Texans in this one. I think the Browns, although they've had a fantastic season, I think the Texans are rolling right now and feel really good after already kind of playing playoff games where the Browns have kind of played like rest games going into the playoffs. So
I will say, just like the Matthew Stafford thing coming back home, if the Browns win, I would love nothing better than the Browns to knock off the Ravens in the next round with Joe Flacco coming to Baltimore.
that would be insane. That would be an awesome storyline. That would be awesome. Although the thing is, the Steelers are probably going to win, and they're the seven
All
seed.
right, dude, move on. All right, dude, move
So
on.
so Steelers Bills, and I think the Steelers are going to win, and they'll be the seven seed, which means they'll have to go into Baltimore, and Baltimore is scared about that.
Yeah, I was told it's going to be 30 or 40 plus mile an hour winds in that Bills Steelers game, which I think gives the Steelers a chance, a little bit more of a chance. But I think Josh Allen on the ground is going to outdo you guys. That'll be the difference maker.
I think TJ Watt not being in the lineup is going to force the Steelers to get more creative and playing. We're going to play a package. You wait, you're going to see it. We're going to play a package of Herbig, Marcus Golden, Highsmith, and Miles Jack all on the field at the same time.
Yeah, I can see that.
You're going to see it. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next game then. Dolphins and Chiefs.
Got the Chiefs in this one. I just feel like the Dolphins, like the Cowboys, haven't been able to beat a team over 500, to be honest. So,
Yeah, and speaking of bad weather, I think I saw the starting temperature for this game is supposed to be under 15 degrees.
yeah, it's built for the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I think I also, yeah, it's home game for the Chiefs, right? And I think I also saw that the Dolphins are 0-10 in the last 10 games with starting temperatures under 30 degrees.
Hmm.
So I don't give Miami much of a chance. If it was a home game for Miami, if they would have won that game last week against Buffalo, it would be an entirely different outlook for the Dolphins right now. But I think the more you look at what happened with their seeding, I think they're done this week. So, all right, let's move on to the last game then, Bender. Packers and Cowboys.
Cowboys, easy. I think this will actually be the only game that won't be close in the slate of games we got this weekend.
I think you're not giving enough credit to Jordan Love, and you're going to be really upset when he whoop, gives a little oopie to Micah Parsons and then just dumps one right over the head of Deron Bland. I think you really Jordan Love is going to have a good game. I see him throwing 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and I think the Cowboys still win by 10 to 14 points.
Cowboys by 20.
Cowboys
33,
20,
33-13.
33-13, 33-20,
We can compromise, but sure.
33-17.
Yeah, let's go there.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But at the same
No,
time, I
but
mean, yeah, Cowboys win that game. So
I think it'll be very interesting to see how things line up. I would like it to play out the way it's supposed to, um, in regards from a Cowboys perspective. Like, I would like the Eagles to run into the Niners before we run into the Niners. Like, I want the Niners to be worn down kind of before we play them. I'm not saying the Lions are just a little walkover for us, um, but people are gonna probably scream at me for this one. We've proven we can beat the Lions, but ignore the two
ooh,
point conversion.
Bender.
But Not that doesn't mean I'm not scared of the Lions. Um, I actually have the Lions going to the conference championship game. So if they end up running into the Cowboys, it is hard to beat a team twice. Hey man, it's very hard to beat a team twice. So I think the Lions would beat us in that round to get to the conference championship. We kind of have to see how it lays out first. I think the Lions beat the Niners if that lines up as well.
There's a lot of stuff coming out of your mouth that sounds like it's coming out of your butt. But that being
Think,
said,
think about it.
that being
Think
said,
about it.
do you think that if the Cowboys lose in the second round, if the Cowboys lose in the divisional playoffs this year at home, is Dak gone?
Dak won't be gone. McCarthy will be gone.
McCarthy will be gone.
And I think like every year, like a couple years ago, blame it on the defense. Last year, blame it on Dak. The Dak situation's not even a thing anymore, in my opinion, just because of what he's proven this year. Um,
Bring him
and
to
now, amen. And then if we lose this year, you know what they're gonna blame it on?
McCarthy.
Tony Pollard's not a number one. So we'll go ahead and we'll get a Derrick Henry or some other kind of caliber, like starting caliber running back.
And who do you hire as head coach?
I think Dan Quinn moves straight up into that spot.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're going to bring back in Jason Garrett.
Don't remind me. Holy crap.
No,
That is one guy I don't ever want to hear about ever again.
I know you loved Jason Garrett. The high fives of the players, or to the air, I should say.
But yeah, that's about the only productive thing he did in Dallas. We didn't even get to talking about Kellen Moore, by the way,
We didn't get
uh,
to talking about Kellen Moore.
who's sitting on the Chargers coaching staff. I wonder if they're thinking about moving him up. I don't think he'd be a good head coach. I think he needs to be a coordinator and kind of stick with it. Um, but I think if Belichick takes that spot like you want him to, I think Kellen Moore might get booted out of there for whoever Belichick wants. I think McDaniel would actually
Yeah.
pair up with him again.
Yeah, I think McDaniel will come back to Belichick
Yeah.
because he always
So
does.
yeah, couldn't do it by himself. Just like Patricia in Detroit a couple years ago. So
Yeah. Yep.
the Belichick coaching tree, they go places and don't get it done
Yeah, Belichick is not good at developing talent and coaching
for
at
sure.
all. Yeah, at all. But
But this is a great episode. I enjoy doing the quick takes episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will try to do more like these eventually. We'll get to it, get more into some MLB next time. There's a lot of free agency going on right now um, outside of the Otani business. And then we'll get into new NFL matchups and more NBA.